This program is made possible by the support of Delta Dental, Quick Trip, Marshfield Clinic Health System, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Hospital Association. Watch WisconsinEye on Spectrum Channels 995 and 363 and at wisi.org.
Tricia Zunker of Wausau is a Democrat running in the special election in the 7th U.S. House District, which compromises Northwest Wisconsin. It's made up of Northwest Wisconsin. The primary election is, let me double check, February 18th. The general election is May 12th. Tricia, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. What in your personal and career background qualifies you to represent the 7th District?
Well, I serve in several elected positions already. I have a legal background as a licensed attorney. I am also a judge for my tribe, Ho-Chunk Nation. I serve as president of the Wausau School Board, and I think my life experiences qualify me for this position.
I'm intrigued by you're a member of the Ho-Chunk
Ho-Chunk Nation, yep.
Right. And what unique perspective would you bring to Congress as a member of the nation?
Well, I think it's important to remember tribal sovereignty in all legislation. I was just meeting with another tribe located in the 7th Congressional District yesterday, Forest County, Potawatomi. And one of their frustrations is how they have to fight to point out their own sovereignty in legislation. And they asked me how I would approach that. And I said, this isn't something that I need to think outside the box on. As an Indigenous woman, this is just at the forefront of my thoughts as well. And this has been something that has been really important in my service on the Wausau School Board, bringing up perspective as a Native woman, as a minority individual, pointing that out in just so many different policies. You know, how does this affect the equitable opportunity of students that maybe don't have the same support systems at home? How are we approaching our hiring process and making sure that we attract a diverse pool of candidates? Things that maybe aren't as at the forefront of other individuals.
You'd be the third Native American in the U.S. House and the first from Wisconsin, of course.
The first from Wisconsin, also the first woman to represent Wisconsin 7 in Congress.
Thank you. Now that you've been around the district, biggest needs of the 7th District, and how would you address them, please?
Yeah, I've been putting in a lot of time going around the district, thousands of miles on my car, and I'm hearing a couple of themes overwhelmingly. Healthcare. Affordable, accessible health care, making sure that people are not penalized for their pre-existing conditions, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, which is so important. I worked in intellectual property early in my legal career, and to see Big Pharma get away with charging Americans 10 times what they charge that same exact medication in other countries is just plain wrong. We need to take Big Pharma on now. And so the health care...
How can they charge 10 times?
Because, that opens up the discussion to campaign finance reform.
Okay.
I don't accept corporate PAC money, but when Big Pharma is lining the pockets of individuals who are in positions to make those decisions, that's a problem. So we need to elect individuals that are accountable to the people and not the corporations. So I think that's a large part of this is we need to get the right people in the decision-making seats.
You're hearing about healthcare. Obviously, it's very important to all Americans. Is the ultimate goal, do you think, a universal, or as some of the Democratic presidential candidates have termed it, Medicare for all, which is not quite universal?
Right.
What's your position, please?
Well, I think it's so fantastic that we are having this discussion because I think we are definitely moving in that direction. Now, the 7th Congressional District is the largest district in Wisconsin, and in fact,
it's bigger than many states.
Right. Well, I hear it's the largest congressional district east of the Mississippi. It's 26 counties. So when you call it Northwest, I think no, it's Central, Northern, Northwest.
Wausau is Central.
Right. Exactly. Well, so what I'm hearing going around the district is there are individuals that do like their current health care, and I'm hearing from union members and union folks that they want to keep their health care that they negotiated for. And I really support our unions. I grew up in a strong union household myself. My mom is a USW Local 2-224 union member. I was out on the picket lines with her in 1992 when James River was striking up in Wausau. So those are some concerns that I am hearing. And I think that healthcare decisions are deeply personal, and people need to be empowered in making their own healthcare decisions. So I support a robust public option. I do believe we are getting there towards a Medicare for all single payer system, but we can't impose that on individuals at this juncture. Especially with the condensed timeline of a special election. For me to come out and just disregard what I'm hearing and think what I think is better, I don't think that's leadership. I think when something would get to the floor for voting purposes, that would allow me time to come back, have town halls with ample notice to everybody, making sure that all constituents have an invitation, can come out, address their concerns, and hear what that legislation really looks like. Right now, we're kind of speaking more ambiguously, and that's not helpful. But the bottom line is, we absolutely need to make healthcare more accessible and affordable. And my opponent will do everything he can to destroy the ACA to make coverage more expensive. So we'll see more people dying and more people going into debt.
Now, when you say your opponent, are you focusing on the two Republicans in the race, or your opponent in the Democratic primary? To clarify.
No, I am speaking about the May 12th election. My Republican opponent, yes.
What are you hearing in terms of has the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare residents of the 7th telling you that's made a difference in their lives?
Yes, it absolutely has, but we can certainly see improvements. We still need to see the cost of deductibles go down. We need to make it more affordable and accessible. We need to expand the ACA. That's where I would be focused, and of course going back to prescription drugs and the focus that we need to put there.
So is healthcare what you're hearing the top issue in the 7th District?
Yes, but the other issue we have to address is the farm crisis. Mm-hmm. This is a major issue. We see an alarming amount of bankruptcies. The day I announced that I was running, I actually went to a ginseng farm. We have an enormous amount of ginseng out of Marathon County, and our ginseng farmers are suffering. And the root, they have to plant it. It takes 4 years to cultivate. And so they were taking me to their year 1 beds and 2 and 3 and 4. And so when we were talking about the root they're harvesting now, I asked them, did you ever think you'd be in this crisis? Mm-hmm. I mean, they were very open, saying, we don't know if we can go on past this year. It's just so terrible.
Is that because of tariffs?
Yes. And that's exactly why I was there. I was trying to learn more about how tariffs were affecting our people here in the 7th Congressional District. So ginseng farmers and dairy farmers. And we have not just the skyrocketing bankruptcies, but we have a suicide crisis that needs to be addressed. There are farmers that are taking their own lives, feeling, how they're feeling about this situation. And the bottom line is, we cannot allow Trump to use individuals as collateral, whether we're talking about our farmers or our servicemen and women, but these are human beings, and these are people that I am seeing real life effect with them. So we have to address the farm crisis also.
Let's talk about ginseng for a minute. Are growers, and I think your district leads the nation in ginseng, are they more optimistic in light of the China pact that the president announced the signing of last week? Do they have new hope?
I wasn't able to actually connect, so I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. Okay. But I have hope for them, but I haven't been able to have those follow-up conversations.
And the dairy farmers in the 7th District, are they more hopeful now that we're close to signing the new agreement with both Canada to the north and Mexico to the south? What are you hearing? Yes,
I am hearing some level of optimism, but you have to understand that we're going on 5+ years, 4 years, 3 years of losses here, when they expect to see things going up and down. And at this point, they said we should be, back up here. We expect, it's just part of running a farm. and I'm the granddaughter of a dairy farmer. My grandpa was a dairy farmer in the town of Easton, and I know that they factor that in, that some years are going to be better and some years are going to be worse, but it ends up evening out over the course of time. And that's what I'm hearing from dairy farmers, is that it's not evening out. It feels like there's no end in sight. But I am hopeful for them also, but we need to ensure access to competitive markets. We need to eliminate predatory business practices that are hurting our farmers and our small businesses. And we need to have funding for mental health assistance for our farmers. And we need to work hard to ensure broadband access for our farmers and throughout the 7th Congressional District.
Having spent some amount of time in the 7th District, logging is extremely important in that district. Is the logging industry healthy? What are you hearing from the logging industry?
I'm not hearing a lot from the logging industry. This is not one of the things that I'm hearing when I'm going through the district,
Okay.
but I'm going to do some research on that and reach out and see how they're being affected. But the bottom line is that we need to make sure that our small and mid-sized farmers, our small businesses, that they have markets, that they aren't suffering. We don't need to see anybody going bankrupt, losing their business, losing their home, or their lives.
We live in historical times in terms of Washington, with the Senate trial going on right now. How would you have voted as a House member on the articles of impeachment?
Well, I think that it is deeply unfortunate that to see this have become such a partisan issue when we can point to the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, and every congressperson took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that is the bottom line, and that should be the guiding force. And with that, if I were to be sitting in that seat and having taken an oath to the Constitution, then we see facts that have emerged that require further fact-finding and investigation. And I would have voted in support of impeachment. Now, I do want to be clear that that is not the focus of this campaign. I think this will be complete when we have this election in May. I am focused on how to make life better here for the good people of the 7th Congressional District. And it's really unfortunate that we are without representation right now in Congress.
The two articles of impeachment, abuse of power and obstruction, which do you think is the stronger case for removing a sitting president?
Are you saying generally or in this scenario?
These two different articles. Which is the stronger case, do you think, as a attorney?
And I guess that's my clarifying question for you. Are you saying generally speaking or
legally?
I think it's going to depend on how the case is presented, what the facts are and who the witnesses are. And as you can see with this particular situation, they're trying to prevent witnesses. And it's really hard to have that full fact-finding necessary because that's part of it, is having witnesses, having the necessary documents. And so either of those could be strong. It just depends on the evidence that you have.
The bottom line, you would have voted for the articles, so you believe the president has committed grounds to be removed from office?
I believe that this warrants further investigation, and that's what that vote signifies.
Okay. Foreign affairs. President Trump's order to assassinate the top Iranian general. Wise decision in terms of making America more safe, or not so much?
Well, I don't think that anybody needs to mourn the death of Qasem Soleimani. He was a war criminal and a terrorist. And so whether we are safer today without him on this planet is debatable because we don't know his networks and how they will respond and how they might seek vengeance. I think that we have past presidents who opted not to take this level of action, and that probably was the prudent choice. But the bottom line is that Congress should have been consulted, and they weren't. Okay. And anything that it really is reckless puts our servicemen and women at risk, and I think that we cannot risk the lives of our servicemen and women. So
if you were serving the 7th District right now, you would have voted for the War Powers Resolution that passed the House?
Yes.
Okay. Should U.S. troops be withdrawn from Afghanistan?
I think it's important to give credit where credit's due, and I really liked when Trump was running and he said he was going to bring our servicemen and women home, because that's what I think we need to be doing. We don't need to be engaged in never-ending wars, spending money outside the country, when we can be building bridges and infrastructure and making life better here in Wisconsin and in the United States. So that's what I think we need to be focused on.
And final question on foreign affairs. Next steps in dealing with North Korea? Thoughts?
Well, I think we need to have meaningful action. These letters going back and forth are not really amounting to anything. And if there's one thing I think we need to do, it's be stronger on this issue. The safety of our nation depends on an agreement to disarm North Korea. So that's what we need to be focused on. And whether it's Iran or North Korea, we need to be focused on diplomatic discussions and solutions.
What do you think is the single greatest threat to America? Is it some of these foreign actors, or are there other forces that keep you up at night?
Well, we look at 2016 and the interference with our elections, the interference with the integrity of who sits in elected seats. I think that is just as noteworthy of a problem as some of these outside actors. So I think we need to look at our elections and ensuring the integrity of them with proper safety mechanisms in place.
Do you think we've made significant improvements in protecting our sacred election systems that elect a president since the documented hackings of 2016 and since then by foreign actors?
No, I think that we need to do more. I think that the Washington Republicans haven't taken the correct position as far as replacing vulnerable voting equipment. We should make sure that all of our voting equipment is made in the United States. That's a philosophy I like, just generally speaking, about our products here to the extent possible. And we need to bolster election security. We need to really look at cybersecurity as it relates to our elections.
This raging debate over whether the social media giants, the Facebooks, should police political ads. Your position on that? Free speech is involved, and commerce is involved. These giants making billions in revenues.
I think when we look at private actors, I think that's within their domain. It's unfortunate, but I think we're talking more of an ethical situation and an ethical decision by their boards, and not something that we can really regulate in this arena. I would hope that they would have certain considerations as far as how they allow their companies to run and what can infiltrate them. But I don't know that we can do as much with the social media giants. The
projections that both Social Security and Medicare are on track to go bankrupt. You've heard different dates. We've heard different dates. How should Social Security first and then Medicare be fixed?
Well, first of all, we need to close corporate loopholes, and we need to make sure that corporations pay their fair share. I mean, to see these conglomerates, these giants like Amazon and others just not have to pay anything, that's just wrong, and they're still going to come out with an immense profit. At what point, how much profit does somebody really need? So we need that, and we need our millionaires and our billionaires to pay their fair share.
Do you back then the so-called wealth tax that Senator Sanders and Senator Warren are pushing?
Well, I definitely back a version in the sense that I believe they need to pay their fair share. Now, a certain percentage, I'd like to see some more numbers and data before committing to an exact percentage.
How severe is the threat to America, the wealth inequality, the one percenters versus the rest of us? Is that a major threat?
Well, I guess it depends who you ask, because we see a lot of variation in everybody that's not part of the 1%. And what might affect me might be much more devastating to somebody else. And I think it's important to have our eyes on people that are going to be impacted more detrimentally than ourselves. That's one of the reasons I'm running, quite frankly, is I think we need to look outside of our own, what affects us, and think, well, how can we achieve the greatest good for the greatest number of people? How can we ensure equitable and inclusive opportunities? So I don't know that I would frame it exactly as you said, right. But certainly that's one of the reasons I'm running is just to make sure that people have the best chance at success, the best chance at a good life.
10 years ago, Citizens United ruling came down from the Supreme Court. Would members of Congress like you work to reverse Citizens United? What's been the effect of Citizens United?
Absolutely. I teach constitutional law, and I teach my students about Citizens United, and I allow them to come to their own conclusions in class. But I will tell you that we absolutely need to work to overturn Citizens United. We need to get the corporate money out of politics. I don't accept corporate PAC money, and I can tell you, I'm seeing this from a different angle now, not just the academic angle of teaching it and living the effects of it, but as a candidate. Mm-hmm. I'm a single mother, and I have to continue to work my jobs to pay for my household, support my family while campaigning. And I don't accept corporate PAC money, so I rely on these small dollar donations. And it's frustrating to see, I'm making calls for $10, $20 donations, and I appreciate each and every one of those. I know the value of a hard-earned dollar. But then to see dark money funneling in on other campaigns is very frustrating. And what the effect really is we do not achieve a government that is reflective of society until we have campaign finance reform.
From a constitutional lawyer standpoint, how do we repeal Citizens United? What's it going to take?
Well, it's going to take...
Constitutional amendment ratified by what percentage of the states?
Yeah, It's going to take, first of all, electing the right people to the seats to further action. It's going to take educating individuals on where their donations are going and who they're supporting as candidates. So I don't know, what that timeline would look like to actually overturn Citizens United, because it's not looking like it's going to happen with the Supreme Court makeup. That's for sure. That's unfortunate. But no, we really need to work hard to get a government that looks like society. And that's how we're going to have the best policies, because we have people from different perspectives that think from not only their perspective, but have that ability to maybe think from other people's perspectives as well. How is this legislation that I'm moving forward or that I'm supporting going to improve life for the people in my district? All the people in my district, not just the people that voted for me, not just the people that I identify with, but all the people.
I respect your expertise as an attorney. How real is the threat to women's reproductive rights given the current makeup of the Supreme Court, Tricia?
Yeah, well, so everybody goes to Roe v. Wade, but really it's Planned Parenthood v. Casey that we should be talking about, 1992. And the language is the right to bodily autonomy. I don't know where in there it started to become framed as it is pro-choice, pro-life. It's so frustrating because I am pro-life too. I am pro-supporting that pregnant woman through her pregnancy so that she stays healthy and that the baby that's born is healthy. And I am pro-life supporting our children that don't have enough food to eat to make sure that they do. And I'm pro-life to make sure that our elderly populations are not going on, having to ration their medication, living on a fixed income. So you can call me pro-life too. But I am a fierce advocate for a woman's right to bodily autonomy. And I don't think the threat is as serious, but because even with the Supreme Court makeup, I don't think that this is something that they're going to be overturning.
You think it's settled law?
I think it is settled law. This is a constitutional right of a woman's right to bodily autonomy. Women can make their own health care decisions, bottom line, but that's what this is. It's a substantive due process right, the right to bodily autonomy. Now, that said, I think we need to be very careful who we elect and who sits in those seats, because when we see individuals that frame it differently, it's an oppressive practice against women to say that, no, this isn't her right. Yes, it is. So that's where the bigger concern is. But I'm not worried about overturning it because it is settled law.
The debate over guns in America. Do we need tougher gun laws? If so, what changes?
Yeah, we're hearing this about these Second Amendment sanctuary counties right now, and I don't know if people just need to do that to feel better, but the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. The Second Amendment exists. A county resolution isn't going to trump the Constitution. So as it relates to the Second Amendment, I support the Second Amendment. I just want to get that out there. I believe that people should be able to protect themselves in their homes, and our hunters should absolutely be able to hunt and use the guns that they need for that, use the rifles and whatever they need for that. But I can tell you, I am a mother, I am a school board president, and I look at these active shooter drills that our students have to do. My son is in 3rd grade, and I think he's done 7 now. I made it my entire academic career.
Run, fight, hide is what your son and my grandchildren are being taught.
Right. I made it my entire academic career never having to do one. And I think about this unnecessary trauma that we're putting them through. We're telling them, just in case somebody comes in with an automatic, rifle and they could shoot at all of us, we need to take action and be prepared. Oh my gosh, let's address it. Let's address the crisis. Let's not traumatize generations of students. We do need to take action. We need to have common sense gun legislation. And that doesn't mean that we're infringing on the rights of people to have their guns. But if there are individuals that have demonstrated they shouldn't have access to a gun because of something that they've done recently, something that's alarming, then let's keep it out of their hands. Absolutely. We need to have common sense gun legislation. And something I know that isn't controversial, but it's what I believe is weapons designed for warfare have no business in the hands of civilians.
Okay. The AK-47s?
Yes. The devastation, the amount of killings that can happen. We look at, classrooms full of 1st graders that were killed in a span of seconds. That was avoidable.
Are you aligning with Beto O'Rourke, who said, "You bet I'm coming for your AK-47s"? Are you going that far?
I don't know about aligning, but I don't, the weapons designed for warfare, that's where they should be and not in the hands of civilians, because that can result in tremendous death, tremendous amount of death.
So you would make them illegal?
Yes.
Would you come and try to confiscate those that are already legally in the possession of gun owners?
I think that is going to jump a few steps. I think, first of all, like I said, we'd want to have town halls. I want to hear from individuals, making sure that they feel heard, and having an opportunity to have a discussion. Look at the data. We don't do that enough. Not me personally. That's something I tend to do is let's go to the numbers, let's go to the data. But we aren't seeing that come out of Washington enough. We look at this climate emergency. Why aren't we listening to the scientists? Why aren't we listening to the experts? We can do the same thing addressing this gun crisis, this gun violence crisis in America.
Okay. I heard Congressman Duffy say that of the 8 U.S. House Congressional districts, the 7th is the one that most voted for President Trump. How do you appeal to those Trump voters?
I think we are more alike than we are different in the 7th Congressional District. And I'm getting out, I'm talking to people. There's a lot of people that vote for the candidate. They don't just vote along party lines. I mean, look at Senator Baldwin. She prevails in the 7th Congressional District. So I think that's the bottom line. And one of the themes that I am also hearing is not even just on issues, but on just generally the state of affairs. People are tired of the bickering. They're tired of the attacks. They just want to see somebody that's going to get to work. And I'm the same way. We do not have time. We have too much to address. Let's just get to work. This is something I do. I work across the aisle, even though it's technically nonpartisan seats on school board. Person I work the best with is politically opposite end of the spectrum. But we work well together through respectful communication, listening, again, looking at numbers, data, how can we make the best decision for our district, and we work the best together. So that's something that I would bring to Congress, and that's what people want to see.
Maybe final question, differences between, number 1, you and your primary opponent, Lawrence Dale. Number 2, if you win the primary, differences with both Senator Tiffany and Mr. Church. You want to start with Mr. Dale?
Okay. Well, I am from Wausau originally, born and raised. I am Ho-Chunk on my dad's side. I come from generations of dairy farmers on my mom's side. Grew up in a strong union household. I'm a first-generation college graduate. Went to school right in this very city that we're in. I am a proud Badger. I earned a triple major and a certificate in 4 years. And I had to work to put myself through school along with scholarships and aid from my tribe. Then I went on to law school. I brought that education and experience back to serve my people, the Ho-Chunk Nation, and then also the community of Wausau, I have a demonstrated record of public service. And I am taking my education experience to the next level. I think that as the first Native American to represent Wisconsin in Congress, that's one way I do differentiate. As the first woman to sit in this seat is another. And I don't say that people should not vote for me because I am a woman. They should vote for me because I'm a qualified woman who's going to get the job done. But representation matters, and our women and our young girls need to see themselves reflected in congressional leadership. And finally, I am a single parent, and when we talk about achieving a government reflective of society, when I'm elected to Congress, I will double the population of current single parents in Congress. Now, does that sound like society? No, it doesn't. And it just takes me back to the campaign finance reform. So that's how I can differentiate really against anybody. Okay. I mean, that's me. That's my story.
Any specific differences with Senator Tiffany or Mr. Church you want to highlight?
Well, I'm a Democrat. and you know, I am very grateful to Mr. Church for his service and his sacrifice for this country. And I can say that. But really, I think one way that I can differentiate again against anybody is when it comes to decision making, there are three principles that guide my decision making. And it's compassion. Number one, compassion. Is this the most compassionate choice in this decision? Number two, equality. It doesn't matter what somebody looks like, how they love, who they love, or how they identify their gender. Are they protected with equal rights in this legislation? And third, opportunity. How are we providing the most equitable and inclusive opportunity so that people have the best chance at success? So I don't know that my opponents would approach decision making that same way. But I think that in a nutshell, that's me, and that's how I would be in Congress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tricia Zunker of Wausau is a Democrat running in the 7th U.S. House special election, the primary February 18th, the general election on May 12th. Tricia, thanks so much for visiting WisconsinEye to talk about your campaign.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
This program is a production of WisconsinEye, an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit media network with a mission to inform, educate, and engage the citizens of Wisconsin. WisconsinEye is the nation's first and only independently funded state civic broadcast network, providing gavel-to-gavel access to government proceedings and events at the state capitol.